So I know the Christmas season is usually a time of bringing joy and happiness, but I feel like with this review, I'm gonna be a complete Grinch, so fair warning. Hey everyone, it's Alexander, the real Mr. Robinson. Welcome to the channel. This is my review for the 2000 adaptation of Dr. Seuss's book, The Grinch, or How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I said this when I reviewed the 2018 animated version from Illumination, and I'm going to say the same thing right here. The plot doesn't really need an introduction. It's about the Grinch who hates the Who's down in Whoville and decides to steal their Christmas. Except this is probably the most famous adaptation of the book besides the Chuck Jones short, and is the first live-action Dr. Seuss adaptation. It's directed by Ron Howard and stars Jim Carrey as the Grinch, so with that combination, what could go wrong? Oh, a lot went wrong. A whole lot went wrong. Now, I know that this is a beloved holiday classic. I know there's some people that absolutely adore this version of The Grinch. So anything that I say from here on out is not going to change your opinion in the slightest. But for me personally, this is just not good at all. Like, to this day, 20 years after this movie came out, it baffles me that people love it as much as they do. Because in my eyes, this movie is just so dark, mean-spirited, creepy, and it's just not a fun movie to watch. I mean, it's got some good qualities to it. Unlike the other live-action Dr. Seuss movie, this actually has some moments you can look at and go, yeah, that's done very well. The first and probably the most obvious is Jim Carrey as the Grinch. He doesn't try to copy the Boris Karloff Grinch, which on one hand I appreciate because he's able to turn the Grinch into his own character, and because Jim Carrey is so energetic, he's able to emote and act through all of that makeup, and he really embodies the Grinch. That being said, he can be very irritating at points, and much like with Batman Forever, it's really hard to distinguish the actor from the character. Like, you're watching The Grinch, but sometimes you'll just be watching Jim Carrey play Jim Carrey. And it can be a little irritating, but at the same time, I'm a sucker for the 90s and early 2000s Jim Carrey. I think the reason I prefer him in something like Liar Liar or Bruce Almighty is because those movies are original concepts. This is an adaptation, so I had some sort of previous thoughts going into it. But over time, Jim Carrey's performance has actually gotten better for me, but I will still take Boris Karloff any day of the week. Another great thing about this movie is the production design. The sets of Whoville are all very well done. They're so imaginative, and they're the one thing that actually works well in a live-action adaptation of Dr. Seuss. Like, the architecture of Whoville gets that look down perfectly. Even though I do have to admit something, I'm so used to seeing that Whoville set on the studio tour at Universal that it's hard for me to think that there's more going on in Whoville because all I think about is just that one set. But I do know there are other parts of Whoville that were shot in a soundstage. That's just a tiny nitpick, and it's not at all a criticism towards the movie, because the production design on this movie is fantastic. Everything else about the movie is just very off-putting, and it just makes me baffled why this is considered a holiday classic 20 years later. I have a reason why, but I'll get back to that a little later. The stuff that doesn't work about the movie is pretty much everything else. I talked about the makeup on Jim Carrey and how good he is at expressing so much through the makeup, but the makeup on the Who's is horrifying. Now, I know this movie did win an Academy Award for its makeup, but maybe not for the right reasons, because the Who's just look incredibly scary, and it shows that what works in a book doesn't necessarily translate well to film. The Who's in the book look the way they do because that's Dr. Seuss's look. And when I watched this movie 2 years ago and prepped for the 2018 version, I did basically the Instagram story equivalent of a live tweet and said that the Who makeup is just horrendous and horrifying. More, not really horrendous because it's not bad makeup, it's just creepy makeup. And somebody said, well, I bet you couldn't do any better. And I just like, no, actually I couldn't. But the point is, the makeup is not bad. It's just scary. It's off-putting. And it just doesn't bring any holiday cheer at all. And another thing that's just as off-putting as the Who makeup is all the adult humor. There's the key party when we go into the Grinch's backstory, and when you're 9 years old watching this for the first time, you didn't understand that scene. But until 2018, I haven't watched the movie since I was a kid, so when that key party showed up, I was like, whoa, 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 stop. Did you just put a key party in a Dr. Seuss movie? For those of you that don't know what a key party is, this is what it is according to Urban Dictionary. A couple's party where all of the men put their keys into a bowl or bag, and at the end of the party, the women blindly select a set of keys to determine who she goes home with for the rest of the evening for sexual gratification. It's a very subtle joke in the movie, but it's so out of place for a Dr. Seuss adaptation that it's just wrong. It feels wrong to see that. And then, of course, there's the now pucker up Whoville, where the Grinch has a mistletoe, hangs it down his ass, and just goes doing. That doesn't have its place in this movie. The scene where the Grinch is in the mayor's home, grabs Max, and has the Grinch kiss Max's anus. That has no place in this movie at all, especially with the CGI eyes that widen on Max. It's just mean-spirited. No, you don't do that to a dog. And I've heard people defending the humor in this movie as clever. And I'm like, there's nothing clever about any of that. What's clever about a key party? What's clever about a mistletoe hanging down from an ass? What's clever about a sleeping man kissing a dog's anus thinking that it's his wife? There's nothing clever about that. And I like goofy Jim Carrey from the 90s and 2000s. But I think the worst offender of all is the fact that the film's message is entirely lost. And that's one of the reasons why I would prefer the Illumination version of The Grinch over this any day. Because, the fact that that version's animated and Dr. Seuss works better in animation is automatically the reason why I like that version better. But the reason I prefer that version over this is because the 2018 version retains the message of that Christmas was never about being materialistic. Even when the Grinch stole the Who's Christmas in the Chuck Jones and the Illumination versions, they knew that Christmas wasn't about the presents. They understood that it was just about being together and celebrating as a family. Not in this version, though. The movie opens up with the Who's being completely materialistic and greedy. And by the time we get to the end of the movie and the Grinch has stolen Christmas, the mayor throws a fit, everyone in the town is upset, they blame Cindy Lou Who, and for that really brief period where they're all arguing with each other and playing the blame game, the Grinch won. The Grinch got exactly what he wanted, and it's almost like the Who's are reluctant to recognize that Christmas is not about materials. And some people have said, oh, well, the point of the movie was for them to realize that Christmas was not about materialism. No, that's the point of the Grinch. The point of the Who's was that they always knew from the start that Christmas was never about presents, tags, boxes, or bags. And you just completely butchered the message. That's, for me, the greatest insult that this movie's committed. I can get past the goofy moments with Jim Carrey. I can even ignore some of the raunchy humor that doesn't fit. But the message being as botched as it is in this movie is where I really draw the line. Again, I don't expect people to agree with me on this. If you love this movie and you consider it a Christmas classic, again, nothing I said is going to change your mind. But to play devil's advocate and try to understand why people consider this a Christmas classic, I get the impression that it's because of nostalgia. I feel like most of the people that consider this a Christmas classic saw it at a very young age, around my age, probably 8, 9, 10 years old. And admittedly, it's hard to shake off a movie that you have some sort of nostalgic attachment to, like the prequels for me. I can't bring myself to hate them because there's some nostalgic attachment to it. Or even when it comes to something like Jurassic Park 3, I can't bring myself to hate that movie because I have a lot of nostalgic memories surrounding it. But I really do feel like nostalgia plays into why people consider this a classic, because my friend Sean Chandler saw this movie for the very first time before he did his Grinch ranking video, and he really didn't like it. And he said that he avoided this movie for 20 years until just recently. So I feel like if there's anybody who's older or didn't see this movie when it came out as a kid, they're probably not going to like this. Again, the people that like it, love it, and I'm not going to rain on your parade, but for me, it's tough because there's some good things about it, but you know what? With the butched message, I can't in good conscience recommend this at all. Don't waste your money at all. I don't hate this movie like I did back in the day because, admittedly, Jim Carrey's good, the makeup work on him is incredible, and the production design is just outstanding. But the Who makeup is horrifying, it's mean-spirited, it's raunchy, and the message at the end of the day is just completely lost. It's a poor, poor adaptation of the Dr. Seuss book, but I think whether you like this movie or hate this movie, we can all agree it's not the worst live-action adaptation of a Dr. Seuss book. One day. I don't know when, but one day I'm probably going to have to get to that. But yeah, The Grinch, I don't hate it, but I don't enjoy it either. And there you go, that's my review for How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And on that note, I want to tell all of you watching this, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Holidays, Happy Birthday to little baby Jesus, and I hope you all are celebrating it to the best way possible, because I've said this several times, 2020 has just been an absolute shithole of a year. A lot of tragedies happened, a lot of plans have gotten derailed, and it's been a rough year for everyone. So even though I probably pissed off a lot of people that love this movie, I hope that my videos, just this entire channel, have given you some kind of joy. It's really been a joy to make these reviews throughout the years, or even with the movies that I don't like talking about. But I feel like next year is going to be better. Hopefully there's a light at the end of the tunnel, the COVID vaccines are getting distributed, and ignoring all the stuff that's going out in the world, I'm looking forward to the future of my content on this channel. And I might have mentioned this in my last channel update, but starting in 2021, I'm going to be doing stuff over on Twitch. I realize that with the video game Let's Plays, they don't get a whole lot of views, and Twitch is probably the best way to do video game stuff. It'll give me more freedom, I can do them for longer periods of time, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So again, I hope you all have been enjoying the content I've been putting out this year. Hope you've enjoyed your holidays, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate around this time. And here's to a better 2021. I'll still be putting out a couple more videos before the year ends, but just wanted to give you guys an update on what's coming in the future. But for now, I want to know what you guys think about this movie in particular. Have you seen it? What did you think? Do you hate me for not liking it, or are you on the same boat with me? Whatever the case may be, let me know in the comments below. And until next time, I hope you enjoyed this review. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, leave a comment, support my Patreon page, follow me on social media, and until then, this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there is only one. Have a happy holidays.